Tonight, we're not just watching a movie, we're stepping into one. A story about a film so disturbing, it doesn't just get under your skin, it claims you. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin. Imagine a small town shrouded in a chilling rain. Above an old, forgotten theater, a neon sign flickers weakly, its red glow bleeding onto the wet streets. The sign reads, now showing the most disturbing thriller you've never seen. A curious small crowd huddles beneath it, drawn in by the strange rumors, ignoring the biting wind. Inside, the air is thick with the smell of damp carpet and stale, burnt popcorn. A young man, Ethan, shakes the rain from his jacket and steps up to the counter. He's here for the thrill, the mystery. 2 tickets for the thriller, he says, a smirk playing on his lips. The ticket clerk doesn't even look up. His eyes are hollow, his voice a monotone drone. Once it starts, he says, his words hanging heavy in the air, you can't leave. Ethan laughs it off. Cool line, he replies, but as the clerk hands him the ticket, he feels a strange warmth from the paper, as if it's been clutched in a desperate hand for far too long. He finds a seat in the dimly lit theater. Only about 10 other people, scattered like lonely ghosts among the worn velvet chairs. The lights go down, plunging them into near total darkness. The screen flickers to life, showing nothing but static. Then the woman's voice, a terrified whisper, cuts through the hiss. If you're hearing this, she breathes, it's already begun. Ethan leans back, still smirking. This is cheesy, he thinks. But then the woman on screen slowly turns her head. Her eyes, wide with terror, seem to lock directly onto his. The smirk vanishes from his face. The projector rattles violently. The image on screen twisting and warping, colors bleeding into grotesque shapes, then complete blackness. A nervous laugh echoes from somewhere in the audience, but it's quickly silenced by a new sound. A faint, mournful cry. It's not coming from the speakers. It's coming from somewhere inside the theater. Behind them, Ethan glances over his shoulder. The other audience members are sitting perfectly still, their faces blank, their eyes fixed on the dark screen ahead. They look empty. The movie flickers back on, but it's not the same film. It's now showing the theater itself. It's showing them, the audience sitting there watching the screen. Ethan's blood runs cold. What the hell? He whispers to himself. On screen, the camera pans slowly across the rows, finally stopping on him. His heart hammers against his ribs. Then the impossible happens. The version of him on screen stands up, but in his seat, Ethan remains frozen, paralyzed. What? He chokes out. The Ethan on screen turns, looks directly into the camera, and smiles. Wide, unnatural smile that doesn't reach his eyes. The theater lights flicker violently. The projector groans like a dying beast. The crying sound returns, louder now, weaving between the aisles like an icy phantom, shaking. Ethan stumbles from his seat and scrambles toward the back of the theater. He has to see the projection. Room, something is terribly wrong. He forces his legs up the narrow metal stairs to the booth. The door is slightly ajar, creaking in a non-existent breeze. Inside, the projector is spinning manically, a seemingly endless reel of film feeding through its gears. He leans in to look at the film canister. Scrawled in smudged ink are the words, the most disturbing thriller you, the never seen, live recording. His breath catches in his throat. He looks at the small monitor beside the projector. It's a live feed. It shows him standing right there in the booth, his face pale with horror. A whisper, cold as the grave, slithers right beside his ear. Now they're watching you. He whips around. There's no one there. Projector's light strobes, and for a split second, a figure is illuminated in the beam pale, trembling, its face lost in shadow. Then it's gone. Panic takes over. He bolts down the stairs, bursting back into the theater. But it's not the same. The audience is gone. In their place, seated in perfect rows, are mannequins. Their plastic faces are blank, their painted eyes all staring at the screen. All except one. The girl who had been sitting near him is still there, her head tilted at an odd angle. Her eyes are wide open, glistening, but they don't blink. They just stare. This isn't real, Ethan whispers, his voice trembling. The image on the screen shifts again. Now it's a horrifying close-up of his own terrified face. His lungs feel tight, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Then, on screen, another figure appears behind him. Another Ethan, and this one is smiling that same terrible smile. He spins around, nothing. He looks back at the screen. The smiling Ethan is closer now, almost touching his on-screen self. A low, disembodied voice fills the room, seeming to come from the very walls. Every viewer becomes part of the story. With a deafening crash, the theater doors slam shut. The lights die, plunging him into absolute darkness save for the single harsh beam of the projector. The sound of the film reel spinning accelerates, becoming a high-pitched, mechanical scream that fills his head louder and louder, until it's the only thing in the universe. Then silence. The next morning, the old ticket clerk sits behind his counter, the same vacant look in his eyes. A young, cheerful couple walks in, laughing. "Hey, what's showing?" the man asks. "The same one," the clerk replies softly. "The most disturbing thriller you've never seen. I heard people faint watching it," the woman says, intrigued. "They never finish it," the clerk says, his voice barely a whisper. They hand over their cash. He tears to warm tickets from the roll and watches them walk through the doors into the waiting darkness. From inside, a faint scream echoes for just a moment. He sighs. Another showtime. Inside the dark theater, the projector flickers to life. On the screen, the new couple finds their seats. And in the corner of the room, sitting amongst the mannequins, is a new, pale figure. It's Ethan. Frozen mid-breath, his silent scream captured for eternity, his form barely visible in the flickering light of the film. On the screen, the woman leans toward the man. "What do you think happens at the end?" she whispers. And from the shadows of the theater, another whisper answers, soft but unmistakable. It's Ethan's voice. "You don't watch the end. You become it." The projector whirs louder and louder, consuming the reel, the story, the souls. The light on the screen glows red, then fades to black, and the film continues to play long after there's no one left to watch. Thank you for joining me on this terrifying journey. If you enjoy stories that linger long after they're over, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content that explores the darkness. Stay safe and always be careful what you watch. The Grand Crest Theater. For over a decade, its doors remained sealed, its stage silent. Locals would cross the street just to avoid its boarded-up entrance. They said that even on the quietest, most windless nights, you could still hear something from inside. A faint, ghostly murmur like the sound of a film still rolling. This is where my team, the Spectre Seekers, came in. The moment we stepped out of the van, the air felt heavy, oppressive, as if the building itself was holding its breath, waiting for us. I'm Maya, the team leader. Standing before that decaying entrance, I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the night air. "This is it," I said, my voice barely a whisper. The Grand Crest Theater. Its last screening was in 2013. Every single person who went in that night vanished. My teammate, Darren, gave a nervous laugh. "And we're going inside." Great plan. With a collective effort, we forced the doors open. A wave of stale air rushed out, thick with the smell of mildew and something else, something like burnt wiring. The lobby was a time capsule of decay-torn posters, shattered glass, and a layer of dust so thick it muffled our every footstep. "Eyed team, set up cameras," I ordered. "We'll start our sweep in the main hall." As we ventured deeper, a faint buzzing started, a distant rhythmic hum, just like an old projector turning. Darn stopped. "You hear that?" I nodded, my eyes scanning the dark corridor ahead. "Yeah," I said, "but there's no power in this building." We pushed open the doors to the main theater. Rows of torn velvet seats faced a massive, cracked screen. The air in here was colder and naturally so. And there, in the center of the main aisle, sat an ancient film projector. It was gleaming faintly as if polished, which was impossible. I approached it slowly, my flashlight beam trembling in my hand. A film reel was already loaded. The label was smeared. But one terrifying line was still perfectly legible. Asterisk, the most disturbing thriller you. The never seen asterisk. "Guys," I whispered. "This is the one from the reports." Darn, ever the skeptic, smirked. "Maybe it's cursed. Want to roll it?" Before I could even answer, the projector sputtered to life. None of us had touched it. A brilliant beam of light shot across the room, flooding the cracked screen with a pale, sickly glow. Static filled the air, and then a woman's whisper echoed through the theater, the same voice that had reportedly haunted the last victim. "Ethan, if you're hearing this," it hissed, "it's already begun." Our cameras flickered wildly, the screens distorting. When the footage finally stabilized, we saw them, us, the Spectre Seekers, standing right here, in this very theater, staring at the same screen. Darren slowly lowered his camera. Is this us?" On the screen, the version of him turned its head and smiled a gruesome, Knowing smile, don't look away, it whispered from the speakers. The reel Darn stumbled back. What the hell? The projector suddenly screeched, the reel spinning faster and faster, the sound swelling into something that sounded almost human, like a chorus of crying. I lunged for the switch, but the metal was scorching hot. It burned my fingertips. The projector felt alive. Kill the power, I shouted. There is no power, Darn yelled back, his voice cracking with panic. Suddenly, every light in the theater burst to life, flooding the room in a flickering, strobing white. Images began to appear on the walls, distorted faces, eyes stretched impossibly wide, mouths moving silently in reverse. I spun around and froze. Standing at the end of the aisle was a man, his clothes drenched, his eyes empty and glassy. It was Ethan, the last person to disappear here. He stepped forward, his movements stiff, mechanical, his lips moved. But the voice that came out was from the projector. You don't watch the end. His head twitched violently. You become it. The film warped. The footage on the screen shifted to Ethan's perspective. We were watching ourselves through his eyes, just seconds behind reality. It's recording us right now, I gasped. Darn swung his camera toward Ethan. But the instant he did, the lens cracked down the middle. A single drop of blood slid down from the viewfinder. Don't film him, I screamed, pulling Darn back. The projector's light stretched across the room, thickening, pulsing like a living artery. One by one, our flashlights flickered and died. Only the projector beam remained, and inside it, faint shapes began to move. Hands, faces, all reaching, clawing, desperate to escape the light. I stumbled backward, tripping over a toppled seat. My flashlight rolled away, and in its dying glow, I saw them, the audience, rows upon rows of frozen figures sitting in the seats. They weren't mannequins, they were real people. Shriveled, mummified, every face twisted in a silent scream of horror, their eyes wide open, staring forever at the screen. Darn turned to run, but the exit was gone. The walls had shifted, replaced by an endless void of seats stretching into darkness. Maya, where's the exit? He screamed. Before I could answer, the screen went black. Faint text appeared. Scene 2, the audience joins in. The projector's beam expanded, swallowing the front rows. Darren's scream was cut short, muffled, as if he'd been dragged underwater. When the light dimmed, only I remained. I crawled up the aisle, whispering to myself, it's just a film, it's just a film, but the whispering returned. No longer one voice, but hundreds, a low, hypnotic chant. Stay and watch, stay and watch. The projector flared. The screen lit up again, and this time I saw myself crawling, terrified. But on the screen, just behind me, something else was moving closer. I turned. Tall, faceless shape stood in the projector's light, its outline flickering like bad reception. It reached for me, its arms stretching unnaturally long as the beam of light twisted around my body like chains. No, I screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the void. The reel snapped, the light burst, and then silence. Hours later, the theater was still. Wisp of smoke curled from the projector's lens. On the screen, static slowly formed into a new image. Rows of silent figures, every member of the Spectre Seekers, sitting, watching. Camera panned to the front row where I sat among them, my eyes wide open, a faint, placid smile on my lips. And one last time, a whisper echoed through the empty building, the most disturbing. Thriller you've never seen, now featuring you.